Hi, welcome to Ask the Security Guy, episode number 43, recorded on March or May 1st. Can you believe it, Shawn? May 1st?
I'm waiting for May 5th.
Why are you waiting for May 5th?
Because am I?
Okay, sure. Welcome to everyone who is watching. If you want to use the chat, you should see that over to the right of me, I think, left of me. I don't know. There's a chat there. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to add those and we'll answer those as we go along. Let me know where you're watching from. And we're going to get started with a different sort of a topic this week. A little different, I think. We've never talked about this before. And that is career options available in the cybersecurity field. Shawn, what do you want to say about that to start with?
Well, it's fun because I get a lot of questions from different people, either in their career or starting their career, about how do I get into security? And it's not really a simple answer because there's a lot of different things that you can do in the security industry. It's huge. Another question I get is, how do I even get started? Okay, well, that's it's one of those weird things. It kind of depends on where you want to go. So I wanted to take some time in this episode to unpack this a little bit for people, and for those who are interested in a career in security, hopefully provide some insight as to how to get started and what kinds of things you can do to prepare, and how to even get into that industry.
So let's say I am a graduating senior from college. What would be the first thing you would tell me? Because my major is in, let's say, communication studies.
Okay, great. So if your major was in communication studies, I'll give you an example. My major was not in computer science. My major in college was sociology, with an emphasis on psychology. So whether you're a communications major, a marketing major, a sociology major, a computer science major, a math major, it doesn't really, all of those are useful in security. It doesn't preclude or exclude you from anything, but it does actually set you up for different career paths in security. For instance, sociology and psychology both lend themselves extremely well to the human side of security. Social engineering, phishing, leveraging social attacks, those kinds of things. All of those revolve around understanding how to hack people. Now, having technical chops to go with it, to once you've leveraged people for a certain end, to then execute on that in a technology aspect is important. So you do want to have a good, solid understanding of technology, but it doesn't mean one thing or the other. Computer science majors, depending on their emphasis, they may come out as fantastic coders or have a solid understanding of how to read code in a variety of languages. That's fantastic too, because now you can either find vulnerabilities in existing code or write your own. And again, coding is a valuable skill in security. Say you're a math major or something along those lines. Well, that sets you up really ideally for careers in encryption and in using encryption technologies and developing new encryption algorithms and all that kind of stuff. In addition to, looking at how to break and test existing paradigms and tools. So one of the neat things about the security field is there's a couple basic things you need to understand. One, people in security like to understand how things work. We love to tinker. I was taking things apart as early as 5 years old and putting them back together. Complex stuff. I love doing that. I love understanding how things work. Interestingly, in security, when you get down into things and you start understanding how they work and where the moving parts are, you also learn how to manipulate them to do things they weren't necessarily intended to do. And that's where we come up with vulnerabilities and 0 days and those kinds of things. And that's how we find them.
Now let's back up because we want to make sure everyone understands what you mean by 0 day.
A zero day is a vulnerability or a flaw in code that has not been known in the industry prior to that day. So it's day zero. This is the day this thing was officially discovered.
Can you give us a recent example of that? Not to put you on the spot.
Actually, there was a zero day just released, and it was very specific to a version of Chrome running on a version of Windows 7. And if you loaded a web page that had certain code in it, it would give you basically remote code execution control on the Windows 7 machine. It was responsibly reported, meaning someone reported it to Google before they just put it out on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. Google immediately addressed it in a code update for Chrome, and now it doesn't exist anymore. Well, it exists for versions that aren't patched, but that's the kind of thing. So once it became known and once it was submitted to Google and Google addressed it, it ceased being a zero day. Now it's just a known vulnerability. So that's kind of the simple way to describe it. I mean, there's
Thank you.
other ways you can go with that.
So for the average person who's just, wanting to look at, cybersecurity, what do you feel like is the easiest area to get started in?
Wow, that really depends on what they're interested in. So there's four major things that if you're looking at a career in security, regardless of where your strengths are, that you should build some familiarity with. Coding, learn some basic languages, Perl, Python, JavaScript, just some basic stuff, even C if you're feeling really ambitious, or Visual C++. But learn some basic coding languages and scripting languages, and learn how to understand it. At the very least, learn how to read it and understand what it does. Systems, expose yourself to a variety of systems. You've got server systems, Linux, you've got all kinds of different flavors of Linux. You've got commercial Unix flavors out there. And you've got, Apple and their little ecosystem. So there's a lot of different systems at play, and that doesn't even begin to touch on the embedded systems, control systems and those and SCADA controls. And SCADA controls are basically very basic controls in like the electrical grid or the gas mains or water treatment plants or those kinds of things. They're valve control systems, if you will, as one example. You can also start exploring into robotics and the things that have control robotic systems. Depends on where you go. Learn the basics of networking, DNS. Learn how IP addressing works. Learn what routers do. Learn what DNS means and how it interacts with things. Learn basic protocols like SMTP. And I'm going to leave it to our users to look this stuff up. Understand how packets get from your computer across the internet to somewhere else, and get an understanding of how all that stuff works. All of these things are free to learn. You do need access to the internet, but even there, you can go to a local, find a local free Wi-Fi hotspot, and you can start exploring from there. As long as you have, some basic equipment, like a computer, network, tablet, laptop, doesn't matter. You can do that. Another fun thing to do that I did coming up was I had a bunch of old cast-off computers at home. I built my own little mini lab based off of free equipment that I got. It was old, it was decrepit, but I didn't need it to do much. I was exploring. I was learning how things worked. So I was poking and prodding and using different kinds of software and saying, okay, well, this is how it works, and this is how I break it, and this is what broke it. So now how do I protect against it? And those kinds of things. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity out there.
So let's say I don't feel like I'm that technical.
Okay.
That, what options would there be for someone like that I just, all those acronyms just kind of go right over my head. What about me? What opportunities might there be for me?
So there's also a bunch of, well, there's user groups, there's free training. Just search for free cybersecurity training now. There's lots of options out there, free courses that will introduce you to the basics of everything I just described. So for instance, one of them is called B-Sides, BSIDES. They have user group meetings and other things, around the country and around the world, I think. There's Cyber Aces, Cyber Patriot, Code Academy. These are all free or low cost ways to get started. I mean, assuming, wherever you're at, whether you know absolutely nothing about this stuff and you're interested, or you're a career professional in a very specific discipline and you want to change. There's a lot of tools out there. Security is really one of the most understaffed industries in the world right now. As there's a huge need for security professionals with all kinds of skill sets. But even the social engineering aspect. One of the companies that I know of recently was started by a guy who really pioneered the idea of social engineering, Kevin Mitnick. I mean, here's the guy. He spent 5 years in prison. He was arrested. He got caught, and now he's running a multi-million-dollar company. Doing what? Breaking people's stuff and getting paid to do it.
Well, and showing people how hackers break stuff and how they can do things like spoofing a phone number or an email address. And so I've seen some of his stuff and it's just fascinating.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, Kevin Mitnick, here's the thing. Kevin Mitnick, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, he was not really well thought of in the hacker community because he didn't fit that paradigm. He wasn't that hardcore geek in a basement, just writing code and, doing this. He had skills in coding and manipulating code and all of that kind of thing. He absolutely did. But he was also good with people. And what he figured out was that, hey, it's kind of a shortcut. If I manipulate people to get what I want, it saves me a whole lot of time of this. And I get further. And he was absolutely right. When we talk about our security training, our security awareness training here, Holly, I mean, we focus on that because we know, and our users know, and all the people we've worked with know, either at APU or anywhere else where you may work, you're either the best line of defense for your organization or you're the weakest link.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about that. I think I told you the story. My son was telling me how he would go about hacking into this and, he's just going on for, 10 minutes. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I would use social engineering and I'd be in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because you develop, and because I'm big into Clifton Strengths, and connectedness is one of those strengths, relator, where you get to know people and you can draw them out and you can learn their whole life story, and then you have the answers to their profile questions to reset their password.
Exactly. Kevin Mitnick, one of his books, he has several books out, but one of his books that I actually love is called The Art of Deception. And there's another book by Ian Mann called Hacking the Human. These are both books that talk strictly about social engineering and how to make it happen. Because these gentlemen already realize that, yes, I can sit here and try to brute force my way through somebody's firewall and hack their systems and leverage vulnerabilities to do this, that, and the other. Or I can find somebody at a local bar, chat them up, figure out what their password is, and log in as them. And shortcut my way through all of that. I mean, there's a million and one ways to approach this from a human perspective that gets you into an organization 5 times faster. So that's not to say that there isn't value in hardcore hacking, sitting there finding vulnerabilities, leveraging them, working your way through the systems and chaining vulnerabilities together to get an exploit. Those are all incredibly valuable. And the thing of it is, a good social engineer will use those tools too to get further. It's just different approaches.
So, I mean, right there, you're talking about social engineering. We're kind of talking about the dark side of it and using it for bad. How would you recommend if somebody wanted to move forward in that field for a positive, purpose? How would they go about that? What
So,
would they
yeah, the media has kind of done us a favor and a disservice at the same time. We talk about these hackers. Okay, so originally the media, just used the word hackers. Well, hackers used to be a badge of honor, being called a hacker, because what it meant used to mean was you were interested in learning how things worked. It wasn't just about technology. It was being able to hack anything together, you know, or what my daddy used to call Yankee ingenuity. So it was finding creative ways to solve problems. These days, now they refer to it as black hat or white hat or gray hat hackers primarily. Um, the kind of work I do for APU and for others is in the white hat area. So basically, I use all the tools and techniques that black hat uses, but I use it for the organization's well-being. So if I go after something, I'm going to break in and then work with our teams to close that vulnerability so nobody else can use it. Because if I can find it, somebody else sure can. That's basic rule of thumb. So a career in white hat security, it basically means you're breaking stuff for whatever company you're working for with the intent of helping them protect themselves better. But there's other careers in security. There's a million and one careers in security. There's phone system security, there's cellular system security, there's app security, and pretty much any platform you can imagine. There are security architect positions, and that's one of the things I specialize in, and that's understanding security from end to end, all the different options across the entire everything from the network layer all the way to the phone in your hand and the apps that you run. How do you secure every piece along the way? Because we go back to the principle of defense in depth. There is no single magic bullet for security of everything. It's the little things along the way. So it really depends. What are you interested in? And what I encourage people to do is go to some of these user groups, attend to capture the flag event, find what you're interested in. You may be interested in coding. You may be interested in encryption. You may be interested in network-based security. You may be interested in app security. You may be interested in things like database security or building complex web applications and securing those. There's a million and one opportunities out there.
That's right. And what we can do is in the show notes when we post this, update this online, I can, hopefully have those web addresses in the description so that you can check them out if you want more information. What else would you like to say?
So there's two certifications that I would recommend that I carry that might help anybody get that visual of what the options are and find their area of interest. One is Certified Ethical Hacker. The Certified Ethical Hacker certification basically walks you through the use of hacking tools and techniques, but also the ethics that go along with it and the legal ramifications of doing this job and not getting arrested, which is kind of important because a lot of what we do for security in terms of breaking things and everything else, if done improperly without the right approvals and documentation, can wind you up in prison. And let's face it, none of us really want to go there. Now, even though different law enforcement agencies seem to recruit from prisons, I don't recommend it as a career path. And then the other one is by a different organization, is Certified Penetration Tester. And again, this focuses on tools and techniques, but also the ethics and the legality around employing this line of work and doing it correctly in such a way that you don't wind up with, polite officers with guns on your doorstep.
Or the black helicopter overhead.
Well, yeah, I know different guys who have that problem too.
I'm sure you do.
You know, to each their own.
I'm going to make this plug. They do not sponsor us, but I did several months ago, stackskills.com. They offer training, and I purchased a cybersecurity set of training, really a great price, and I've been really impressed with the training. I haven't gotten through all of it yet, unfortunately, hopefully this summer. But again, they're a great tool, and they do a lot of really cool sales.
Yep. And there's another one called IT Pro TV. That's another great resource. It's not free, but it is low cost. And they have a lot of great security trainings. And again, we don't have any endorsers, nor do we have endorsements. So these are good resources that we're aware of.
Yeah, that's it. Like I said, I've done a couple of the classes and been really impressed with. They're well done. They're well done training. So I like that.
Absolutely. Yep. Heard of them.
Well, we don't have any questions. We do have some people watching, but no questions.
Okay.
So if you do have questions later on and would like to pick Shawn's brain some more, easy way to reach him is iso@apu.edu. And I'm not sure why we keep bouncing back and forth, so let me lock it down for a second here. iso@apu.edu. One of us will get back to you and answer questions that you may have. So with that, I think we can sign off until next month. Shawn, anything else for you?
No, if you're interested in security, go forth and hack something.
But have permission.
With permission.
We do not want to be visiting you in jail. We do not want to be, you throwing us under the bus in court. You have permission.
By the way, I will not post anyone's bail.
No, sorry, not here. So with that, have a great day, and we'll see you next month.
All right, we'll see you.